Marcus, I'm excited to have you on the show, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, my man. It's good to be on here.
Cool. Like I was just saying, like right before I hit record, I actually, I don't know a ton about you, so I'm really excited to get to know you a little bit, to share your story with our audience. Obviously, our goal and purpose is to just to share stories to
Yeah.
help people, to help them know that hey, we're in a pandemic right now and things are tough, and that doesn't mean that we can't move forward, we can't achieve goals. So I'm looking forward to just diving in a little bit. And the only thing I will say is that you are a part of my financial coaching group, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about that. But just to give the listeners a little bit of just a little bit of a background. But you should feel honored. I think you should feel honored because you're actually only my second guest. So this is going to be episode. I think it's going to be 43. And first 40 episodes was just me, myself, and I. And then the next one after that was my wife. So you got yeah. So you're the second guest after my. So let's just start off by just just kind of go wherever you want with this. But tell us a little about tell us about yourself.
Yeah, man. I'm 24 right now currently. Just still young, learning a bunch of things, and just kind of surrendering to the whole experience right now. So it's been a lot, but real exciting times for sure. So my whole start in fitness was I was a collegiate athlete for the first 3 years of college. I went to Occidental College, which is out here in LA. People only know it because Obama went there. That's our one saving grace, and no one else knows us. Yeah, so went there first 3 years, played football, and I quit just because wasn't as happy with how I was playing and everything, and I just feel like I needed something new, right? Got really isolated after I quit and kind of dove straight into the fitness space, right, where like I was working out 2 3 times a day because the only thing that really brought me like any sort of community or friendship was being in the gym. So I used to go there and like I would talk to people and I would meet people, and I actually started training off of that. So I started like my own small little business in college, like just training people, trying to make money to go, just afford college stuff, um, tuition and all that. And then when I graduated, I actually worked at this amazing boutique gym here in Pasadena under an amazing, amazing coach and mentor. Joseph Hawthorne's his name. If you want to interview him too, I think you should reach out. But he's a awesome dude. Like was always into like masterminds and applying himself, and like sat down with me all the time and would teach me things. And he helped me grow some of my like online business at the time while I was a trainer for him, and that was just awesome, right? So then he left, and I ended up taking over a couple of his clients, and I'm like fish out of water, guys straight out of college, like get, I'm taking on like probably 35 or some clients, and I'm like, I don't have a clue what to do, right? And just had to dive into everything, dive into learning, dive into just applying myself as much as possible. And that was probably the beginning of 2019. So I was subleasing, and then here we are at the end of this crazy year of 2020, and we just opened up our first spot. So
Nice.
it's pretty awesome for sure.
Nice. I'm going to actually ask you about that. But I want to just check in real quick personally. You're a married guy, right?
No, I have a girlfriend.
Okay. All right. Cool. But you guys are pretty serious.
Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. How long you been dating?
It's been 6 years, man.
Okay.
Crazy.
Okay. Cool. And what's her name?
Amber.
Amber. Cool, man. So one of the things I wanted to just touch on, this is really more, we talk about different things, more financial, personal development, and stuff like that. But one thing I noticed that I love your social media presence. You have really good posts. They're really well done. They're very professional, but at the same time, they are very real. And you're constantly either telling a story or you're just showing it's like overused, like vulnerability, but you're kind of you're very real. Like I feel like you're just doing a real good job of connecting with your audience with what's going on. Is that just because you're 24? I mean, how is what kind of what can you share about that? Maybe it's a tip or just maybe kind of how you look at it.
I think I learned a lot from this guy named Ryan Horacio, and Unusually Focused. Where like their whole thing is like you need to be yourself, right? Because like the whole thing of like they need to know, like, and trust you. If there's that wall up always between like who you really are as a person and what the business offers, people will never really like buy in. Because like everyone who's listening to this, you probably have a couple clients who, they probably haven't made that much results in a while, but they keep showing up for years and years and years. And the reason behind that is like because they love you, they love your staff, they love the culture, and they love what you really are, right? So like so many, I think the problem with a lot of like fitness professionals is we say, oh, you have to use your serratus anterior to punch through here, and it's like, okay, that's very important. And when we get in, that's what you need to focus on. But to the audience outside, they don't know you enough to care. Everyone has squats, but not everyone has your personality, right? And it's just like kind of getting that out there where it's like, okay, we can all put on like this is my 7 exercises to fix my lower back, which is cool, but we also need to have that piece of like, hey, this is who I am as a person. This is why I understand you. I'm not this perfect being that's fit all the time and like, 365 crazy, putting everything into my fitness pal. There's like I understand what you're going through. I've dealt with these similar things before and I can connect to you,
Yeah,
right?
that's awesome. I know a lot of people make a mistake or they think it's I think it's about them and showing again how much they have it together, but that doesn't cause people to connect. So that's really good. I'd love to even talk more about that, but just for time's sake, I'm going to touch on some other things with you. So you're in California, right? You said you're in LA or close by.
Pasadena area. So
Okay.
LA.
All right, so we're not going to get political, but we know that New York and LA, California, there's some similarities in terms of the amount that we've been shut down and how we've been hit with the pandemic and everything else. So we definitely share that in common. Where it's there. I have friends all over the world, really, and definitely all over the country. And some of them they don't seem as affected just because of the nature of their situation where they live. We've both been really affected, and you're like you just said, and I'm watching your social media, and you're showing your new facility and the updates that are happening. So just tell us a little bit about that. How did that transpire? I'm assuming part of it was just timing, right? Because you probably had your plan, and then you probably couldn't predict the pandemic. So
Yeah.
a little bit about that and how that's going.
Could I just say, at the beginning of this, in March, I was looking for spots and I almost closed on a huge space that would have been like 2 times as much as the current space I'm in and had no parking lot, right? So no outdoor space to be in. And um, thankfully someone else got it right as I was like submitting my lease application. So I would have been stuck in that spot like 5,000 square feet with no parking lot, nowhere to use it, paying all that money. So that was a blessing for sure. But man, after that, it's just we were outdoors for a lot of it. Thankfully, I just reached out to my clients, talked to my father, and he was like, "Hey, like find a parking lot somewhere and you can rent that out." And I reached out to a client who ended up owning a local like marriage facility, and she was like, "Hey, we'll help each other out. We'll rent it, right?" So for about 4 months, we were in that church parking lot, 5 a.m. sessions, bringing everything out, taking everything over, walking out all the dumbbells. And like the whole time, it was just like an ongoing, like, keep doing this now. So when things line up, you're set up for things to work out amazingly, right? And we just like, I just kept that in my mind the whole time. Like, I kept breathing into all my clients, like, hey, we have to be resilient. We have to be adaptable. Don't look towards the future because you don't know, you're not in control of that. Control what you can and just keep showing up to the pieces you can show up to, right? So I just tried to breathe that into myself and breathe that into all my clients. And we just kept growing from there, right? So it forced, I think 2020, as tough as it's been for a lot of people, it's forced so much growth to those that are open to it,
Okay.
right? For those that are stuck and they're like, I want to just, I wish it was this way, I wish it was that way, and it's like we can't wish, you have to just take whatever like life gives you and just say like, all right, this is what I'm working with. We're shut down. Okay, cool. This is what I got to do. We're back on Zoom. All right, cool.
Hmm.
Always having that of like, yeah, it sucks, and yeah, you're gonna like be hit sometimes, like, and just be kind of stuck and not want to go anywhere. But you just have to say, all right, I'm gonna give myself 24 to 48 hours, and then I got to get right back after it, and I have to just go for it with whatever life puts in front of me.
Nice. That's awesome, man. We're definitely going to get to the finances, but we can't go yet there yet. So I have another question. You can just tell that you're you're doing a great job of leading your clients and leading yourself, and it's and that's what people need, and you're providing that. So props to you for that. Where does that come from? You seem like super motivated. I'm not sure if you have a lot of guys your age that you hang around with, but I'm assuming they're not all kind of getting after it like you are. So where does that motivation drive come from for you?
Man, I gotta say honestly, it's come from my father 100%. Like I've seen this dude like never complain, like work till like 2 a.m. and then go wake up in the morning and go out to work again, driving all over the place. Like the one, and this is around Christmas, so this is the moment I always think of. There was one Christmas where my father like was working hard as hell the whole December, and then when Christmas came around, like he had money to like buy us everything, and then he just had for himself like, he literally bought himself a Coca-Cola, right? And he bought himself that present. And this is like Marcus Young. I was probably like 6 or 7. It was during the recession, or however old I was, 10 then. I know numbers. But yeah, I just that is just ingrained in my head for the rest of my life, where it's like this whole mentality of like, hey, like you just have to keep working and working and working and working, and like, like that's the only way you're gonna make it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Things won't be given to you, things aren't gonna fall into your lap, but there's also no barrier stopping you from those things,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's like there's no ceiling, and your work is gonna determine where you fall in there. So he kind of breathed that into me through sports, through academics, through everything.
Yeah.
So
Very
yeah.
cool. Well, just a reminder for everybody watching, listening. We're going to share any links that Marcus mentioned. There's a couple of mentors already, so make sure I'll put those in the show notes. So I'll grab those from you, Marcus. All right, so let's get into the meat. We're talking a little bit off air about your financial journey, your history. There's a lot of places we can go with this, but I think just starting off with you share a little bit about your background in terms of the financial side of things, and then some things you started doing. So let's just start there. Like, tell us a little bit about your history with finances, so to speak. That could be you could take that for yourself, your family, however you want to answer that is totally cool.
So I think the biggest thing was, like I said, and this is a problem that like so many people who come from like actually, I think this is just across the board. Like when you're younger, like you don't fully understand finances, and if finances were something that was more of like a taboo subject as you were growing up, which it is for so many people,
Mm-hmm.
it can be kind of hard to navigate and learn those things, right? So there's people who are still today like figuring those things out, and it's normal, um, because you don't learn it in school, like there's no sessions for it. They want to teach you like all these things, but they don't teach you just how to set up, savings. So I think for me, the biggest jump was going from that college kid that was just paying people out and making a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 a month, from like training.
Yeah.
6 months later, after I graduate, was having to take on this higher volume of money, and it was overwhelming at first,
Mm-hmm.
right? It was overwhelming because you don't really know what to do with it. You don't really know where to put it. You don't know how much to spend, how much to save. And it was a lot that first year, right? So I think the biggest thing, and I think the steps is like, one, make sure the first thing you do as soon as like you're starting to do everything is that you hire someone that knows more than you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think I take this on with every single piece of my life, which is like, I want to get better at this. I could struggle at this, or I could take this money that I was going to spend on whatever vacation or toy or whatever, and I'm going to put it into someone that knows this so that I can learn faster, right? Because I don't like being uncomfortable with things, right? I don't like just sitting there and not knowing something. So I'd rather just pay someone like, oh yeah, let me pay Billy, and he'll teach me how to do more on the financial side, right? So it's like paying someone that knows more, setting up with an accountant, and just making sure you have all your accounts, your tax accounts, your savings accounts, your payroll. If you have that, make sure you put yourself on payroll, because that was a big mistake I made for sure. And it's just learning all of those things, where those are all just going to be huge, huge steps for.
And what can you share, whatever you're comfortable sharing in terms of results. You don't have to share numbers or anything like that, but just anything that's different in terms of some steps you reached, or maybe it's lifestyle or anything like that.
Definitely, man. I think the biggest thing is like I feel way more comfortable and I feel freed by looking at my finances now, right? So like before, I would I have it on my calendar, Sunday, every Sunday, review your finances.
Nice.
And I would skip over Sundays, right? Or I would, go do some other piece of work and be like, I'll do this later. Because I was just so like afraid of hopping into it and coming to terms with whatever it was. Um, and like, so spending was there, and like, you don't really know how much you're really spending or what's the effect of it because you're kind of in the dark. And you think being in the dark will make you more comfortable, and like not looking at all your bills will make you more comfortable, and it'll eventually go away. And that's just not how it happens,
Mhm.
right? So now, like after going through the course and like being in the course and looking at all the planning, like I look at both my accounts every single day, right? So like I wake up and I get a text from this service called Digit. They say like, hey, this is your account, this is the recent purchases. And then every Sunday I go in and I just pull up. I have a monitor over here where I pull up my bank statements and I enter in every single thing that I've spent and
Mhm.
like everything in the budget, right? And then I can look at it instead of being like, oh, I don't know if I could spend this much, or ooh, am I spending too much here? Everything's guided now, right? Where I'm like, all right, I have this amount to spend. This is going to put me into this much profit if I go over this. And it's all in there. So it's like, it's no longer a confusing thing. It doesn't take up as much mental space. It's like very clean and cut. And like, I'm the type of guy where I want everything to be clean, cut, and precise so I don't have to waste too much space up here
Mhm.
on non creative things.
Awesome. You don't strike me as somebody who's afraid to invest in yourself.
Yeah, I think I've embraced it, and a lot of this was from my old mentor too, where it's like I'd much, much, much rather pay someone to teach me something and to learn something, especially if they're like in a spot where I want to be. I'd much rather pay them than to like just sit there and kind of figure it out myself, which is possible. Like
Yeah.
today's age, you can go on Google and YouTube and find everything,
Yeah.
but I think my first year in business, like I paid over 20K in learning, and then this year I'll probably be somewhere upwards of like 25, 30K maybe, where it's just like
Yeah.
teach me, teach me, let me learn everything. I want to grow, and then one day I'll be there doing that.
That's
Um,
awesome, man. We share that philosophy as well. I talk about it all the time. I have the same thing. I have tons of coaches and tons of programs that have done, and there are different benefits to that. I don't want to say too much. I want to hear your thoughts on it, but there's a lot of benefits to doing different programs and being in different groups. What would you say is like the biggest benefit you've gotten from doing things like that? Because I think there's a lot of them.
I would say the biggest benefit would probably just be confidence overall,
Yeah.
right? But outside of that, because you have like when and someone says like, "Hey, this is what works, do this." I used to walk into strategy sessions and be like, "All right, well, let me try this out, or let me say this," and then I would talk to my coaches and they'd be like, "All right, like let's role play it, let's run through it. This is how you should do it. If someone gives you this objection," and then I walk into the next one, and I'm like the coolest cat, because I've practiced it, I've learned it from the greats. I would say, but outside of that, it's the community and having other people, because the fitness space can be very isolating as an owner and competitive. So having that group of everyone being together is really awesome, and you get to bounce a lot of ideas off from other people, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said it right there. It says not in any groups or anything like that. It's dangerous. Right? You just get isolated, and it's they're really bad really quickly. But sometimes it's not even like everything you said is spot on. It's the advice, it's the knowledge, the confidence, and sometimes it's just knowing that what you're dealing with is normal. And
Yeah.
I just sound like corny, but you feel accepted because you're around other people that are going through something. That's really good stuff. I think that might be my favorite takeaway so far is really don't be afraid to invest in yourself. I mean, Marcus is proof that it works. But one of the things I got out of that also was it's not just investing the money; it's actually doing it. It's participating because I unfortunately I have seen people spend that kind of money but not get the value, and that's on them
Yeah.
because they're not showing up for meetings. They're not doing the work. You mentioned role playing. Like how many people are really gonna take their time and role play? It's really only the ones that are willing to do the work. A lot of people they're just not because it's uncomfortable. It's weird. It's not something that we naturally want to do, but it's those little things that really make the difference.
Exactly, man.
Down here, I'd like to hear a little bit more about your goals. So, what are some of your goals that you have moving forward? So, you got new facilities open. Is that right?
Yeah, we're outside doing sessions, but the new facility we're here at least, which makes life a little easier.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, man, I think the biggest goals for 2021 is I want to hire one to two more trainers to get in here. Just because I have one online trainer, it's absolutely amazing, but she moved up to Washington with her boyfriend, or husband now. I want to get two more trainers in here so I can focus a little bit more on the back end stuff and really growing it. I think that's one of the biggest ones. Another big one is, to start. I want to hit at least 10 reach outs to like affiliates every month or like joint ventures.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Become more connected in the community. And the last one, I wrote it down somewhere. I got to get back on it. But the last one is just to like create all the systems in place so I can have consistency. Because like one of the things I talked about was I'm not really someone who does well or can really function when there's too much happening here and I have to think about too much. So I absolutely have loved like Doug Sperling, right?
Okay,
Yeah,
well, I'm gonna have them on.
yeah. So I've been in a Systems Academy course as well, and just being able to like hop on those calls and be like, all right, like these are all my systems, like this, how does this stack up? Just so I can look on the screen and say, all right, this happened. Let's document it. This is how it worked out, and let's just replay it instead of having to think like, what do I do this time? What do I do this time? What do I do this time? So I think the easiest way to sum it up is 2021 is the year of mental freedom, for sure.
Nice, nice. I love it, man. All right, cool. Well, one thing I decided to start doing, I'm a huge podcast junkie myself, and I shared some of the ones I listen to. I listen to so many podcasts. I think if you don't listen to podcasts, you are crazy because podcasts are free and you can listen to experts in a variety of fields. You hear interviews with great guests, just like yourself. So if you're listening to this, then you fall into the category of people that listen to podcasts. So that's awesome. And one of the things I like about some of my favorite podcasts is they do like these rapid questions, and they're just kind of fun questions just to get to know the guest a little bit. And I'm always trying to figure out what are some good questions to ask. So I'm not like fully settled on all of these, but I'm gonna throw some at you, and we'll see what you think. So the first one is, is I think it's valuable to learn from other people's mistakes. It's you're gonna learn from your own mistakes, but it's even better if you learn from somebody else's mistake. So the question is, what's the biggest mistake you've made? And you could answer that in terms of financial, like biggest financial mistake, and what you learn from it, or just anywhere you want to go with that.
I'd say biggest financial mistake I made was not getting an accountant sooner and not getting all that set up sooner. Just 'cause, like I didn't know, right? I
Uh-huh.
didn't have myself on payroll and all these things.
Nice.
Um, Biggest financial mistake, like get that done as soon as you can. I would say the biggest mistake overall is, not putting enough focus on like the mindset set of things for myself, right? So like the meditations, like the journaling, like all these things that allow you to be more productive. I was kind of like a run, 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 and then I would just burn out and die. You
Uh-huh.
know, wasn't prioritizing those other things. So I think that's the biggest mistake I made early on.
Awesome. What's the best book you've read? And I always say best, but I know like for me that's hard because I like so many books. But you could just choose one of them. What's one of the best books? Financial, great. If not, any book.
Think and Grow Rich for sure,
Awesome.
and like actually slowing it down and taking the steps in there
Uh-huh.
as instead of just zooming through it.
Nice. Good stuff. What's a movie that you love to watch that you're gonna watch it if you come across it?
This is gonna sound corny with everything happening, but Pursuit of Happiness is one of my like
That's good.
favorite. Yeah.
Yeah, man. That scene with his son on the basketball court is man that will make you tear. So what does financial freedom mean to you?
Man, it honestly is like focused on the future, right? Financial freedom for me means that I can provide for my family, where I can give them everything they want. And this is focusing on my children mostly, where I can give my children everything they would ever need to be successful in life on my part that I could.
Mhm.
I'm not going to give it to them because I want them to still have like some sense of worth ethic. But if I
Yeah,
can get to the point where like I can give my kids everything they could need and give them a great experience, I don't have any yet, but.
Yeah,
in
but
the
you're forward thinking, which is
future.
awesome because chances are you will, right? God willing, and it sounds like that's what you want. And so to think ahead like that is awesome, and they're going to be blessed to have a dad that is thinking that way. The last question I have is if you could have lunch with anybody that you have not already had lunch with, or anything like that, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh man, that is a tough one.
Put me on the spot.
That is a tough one. It's like one of the most common questions ever, huh? Um, wow, I'm kind of stumped on this one.
All right.
Uh, can I can
Yeah, you can get back to us on that.
I
Uh,
say Bryant on this one?
and then let me give you another a chance. So I'll give you another one. I'm gonna have some backup questions. The next one is, what's a skill? I guess skill is the right word. Like a skill or a talent you don't have that you wish you did.
Writing. I wish I was an amazing writer. I will be one day, but right now I wish I was an amazing writer and I can just like write poetry and books that were just killer.
Nice. Nice, awesome, Marcus. I mean, I can't thank you enough for taking your time. I know you're a busy guy. You just finished up a morning of training because we're on different time zones. But just share with us anything else you want. What else do you want to share? Any encouragement? Anything else you want to say to our listeners? Maybe someone's out there. Maybe they're a young coach like yourself, and they're worried about everything going on, and they just need some encouragement from a guy who is doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things is just to like surrender to life fully, right? So there's a book called The Surrender Experiment that I read right at the beginning of all these quarantines. It's one of the best books ever, right? Because it just says like, hey, accept that you're not in control. You're not in control of anything. The world doesn't bend to your rules. You just have, but you're in full control of how you react to them,
Mhm.
right? And it's like surrender to life, let life carry you, work hard as hell in every piece that you're in, and then in the end, things will work out. But just like everything that makes you uncomfortable, please try to go after it. Please make sure you're taking care of yourself and like get in therapy and things like this. So just work hard on all those pieces that are uncomfortable for you and just like accept that you have no control over life outside of that.
Awesome. And we'll put all the links in the show notes, like I said. Mark, so would you be okay if anybody had any questions, if they reached out or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. They could reach out to me. I'm mostly on Instagram. It's just Marcus underscore McDuffie, my last name. Reach out to me with questions. I'll hop on calls with people if they want to just chat up some. I'm always open to it. So
Is that the handle for like your gym stuff too, or is that separate?
my gym stuff is Ion Training, AION Training. So that's where I put all the main stuff for the business. My personal one is where I just kind of post lifting and talk about life and things like that.
Nice. I definitely recommend that you check that out, either or both, because Marcus is a great guy. Number one, you learn a lot, and I think just seeing somebody doing it, being real, and really having an engaging audience will be a great thing to do. Well, thanks so much for coming on, man. I will talk to you soon, and keep up the great work. Maybe we'll have you back on one day and get an update.
Definitely, brother. After all this stuff is all put together, it'd be awesome.
Awesome, man.